Okay, welcome to Love, Light, and Bullshit Bingo with myself, Yolandi and Ceryn.
Yay. Welcome, everyone.
Oh man, so this month we've just been through the solar eclipse portal from last week. And this is now our second take for recording this because I, on the day of the eclipse, proceeded to have a little meltdown. And this is kind of what we're going to be talking about today. Because we thought it's really important to delve into this. And it's very much about our awareness of self, how we identify in the world, how our jobs as healers and coaches and teachers and all that good stuff is kind of wrapped up in this self-awareness. And yeah, so we're going to be digging a little bit deeper into a juicy subject today and really stepping into some self-awareness, I feel.
Me too. And I want to say, there's two things I want to say. One is, I mean, what sort of idiots try to record a podcast on the day of a solar eclipse? These sorts of idiots, guys, these sorts. I think, but this is the flip side of that, like the eclipse portal, and we are now in an eclipse portal for however long. We've got another one coming up next week as we record this.
Yeah.
Um, we have to remember that it can feel really, I was going to use the word gnarly, which I never use. It can feel really gnarly whenever you move through an eclipse. There can be good bits, there can be bad bits. But the beauty of an eclipse is always to lead us to a place of greater awareness, of greater illumination.
Yes.
And the conversation that we are going to have today is exactly that. It is, I'm not saying it's our most enlightened conversation. That's not what I'm trying to tell you, but it came from a place of eclipses can often feel like breaking down a breakthrough.
Yeah.
And this is part of our breakthrough. And
Yeah.
so I just want to say to you, as we move towards yet another eclipse, the next one is a lunar eclipse. Remember that what you're feeling in that moment is true and it's valid and it's potentially big. And also it might just be leading you somewhere. I feel like last week I heard the line at least 5 times. It's not happening to me, it's happening for me.
Yeah.
And I heard it, I was like, shut up with your platitudes and your cliches. But in the case of an eclipse, just try to remember that, try to stick with, right, let me get through this and then look at it again.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. And the other thing I want to say is that I would almost take this even further, that for those of us who work in this industry, everything we're about to say is, I believe, quite valid. Also, for those of us who participate in, consume this industry, I guess, I would argue it's the same.
Yeah.
This love and light spirituality has become a way of life. In many ways, it's become the definition of ourselves, and we need to step back and look at what it means for us, look at what it means for the world.
Yeah.
So whoever you are, as you're listening to this, just know that, just keep listening or keep watching, because there might be something in here for you.
Yeah.
I'm also going to say it, just a little bit of housekeeping. Since we last recorded, I got a puppy. And so if at some point, if you're watching this on YouTube and at some point you see a small thing jump in front of me and start eating my hair, you're not seeing things. It isn't some strange hellhound. It is actually Lagatha. If you are listening on Audacity and you suddenly hear it in the background, I'm really sorry. She's just found a toy and she won't put it down. Like this is just how my life is at the moment. So thank you for understanding.
It's fine. She's welcome here in our beautiful space. So let me dive into what happened. So I was obviously like anchored myself in, and I'm like, cool, I know shit's gonna come up because obviously last week things were happening and stuff. And I'd spent the morning, as I was saying to Karen, I was like heart listening, right? Like, so I literally thought to myself, okay, I've been so busy. I literally need to just like drop back into my heart and see what's really coming up. And after having some extensive journaling, I basically came up with this line that I just threw at Karen as we met. And I'm like, I think I'm addicted to my job. And she's like, sorry, what? And it's just like, well, like there's this thing with me where I know that I'm seeking connection all the time. And a lot of my work is about like going into 5D, channeling for people and all of that. And then I basically get my highs. And I'm like, so this really freaked me out. And then she turned to me and she's like, well, like, who are you without your job? And that just nailed me because I was like, oh my God, like, who am I without being Yolandi, the channeling person, the person who does activations and all that type of stuff? Who am I when I'm not that? And that really started our conversation because we started delving into how much we identify our entire existence linked to what we give to the world, and how very dangerous this can become, because all of my wounds, all of my stuff, everything then is so wrapped up in this projection, in this like persona that I'm literally like giving out to the world.
And I think, it's one that we don't think about a lot, and yet it's one that happens very naturally, certainly in this industry. We tend to be led into the fields of work. We tend to be led in there. And I bloody hate the idea of wellness. I think it's another story for another day. But we tend to be led into this field because we are seeking something, because there is something going on that we are seeking a way around, or a way, or an insight into, and that leads us into this. And that's fine. That's okay. It's part of this searching path. What is life but a path of searching and of learning? And yet then we find it and it becomes our entire being. It becomes so much of who we are. And it makes me think, when you just explained it like that, which I didn't think of when we spoke last week, it struck me a while ago that, I have a number of jobs, I guess. And in my work, there are almost two sides of the work that I do. There's the channeling piece and there's the therapist piece. Or three sides, because we're going to include writer. Now, the channeling and the writing are things that I've done my whole life that I loved. The therapist piece is a bit that I'm really good at. Like, I'm not going to tell you that I'm not. I know I'm good at it. But actually, what struck me during my most recent round of therapy was the fact that I do that because it is what I have always done. Because throughout my life, I have been the person that people have come to and unloaded whatever's going on in their brain and their heart, because I've always been the one to hold space, because that has been something I've been conditioned into. Now, having spent most of this year so far deep diving with human design and realizing that as a generator, that's something I'm going to be good at. It's something, I read something about generators recently that said, you must remember, as a generator, your value is not in what you do for others. And yet that is exactly why I'm a therapist, because for the longest time, what I have always known I can do for others is listen to what they've got going on and help them find a way through it.
Yeah.
And so that became my job. And if you had asked me a year ago or 6 months ago, I would have probably told you that was part of my purpose. My purpose. Is it my purpose? No, it's part of what I've been conditioned into, because it's the value. It's something that makes me go, I'm good at this. This is my value.
Yes.
It's my purpose. And I think we're in this really difficult place right now where, particularly in our industry, we conflate purpose with work.
Yeah.
Conflate work with what we receive praise for, or what makes us feel, what we're perceived as good at.
Yeah.
As what gives us some sort of ego boost.
Yeah.
And it puts into a really strange, really gnarled up place.
Oh man. And so if you're listening, I mean, just take a moment, like whatever, like what gives you your worth, and like what are you really good at? I mean, because there's such a big, and you're right about like the whole therapy thing and everything, because I mean, for me, I was always the go-to, right? Like, so I was the go-to person to talk to as well and stuff. And like that healer aspect, and that like, making sure everyone's okay aspect and stuff. And so many of us have that put onto us because we're good listeners, we're empaths, so we can feel, and we're there, like you have like your open solar plexus and your human design and stuff. So just because you've got that and you're good at that doesn't mean it's your purpose. Now, if you asked me 8 years ago, I would have said my purpose is that. And now I'm going, what the fuck is that my purpose? My purpose is not to like help people, right? Like, and I think that when you asked me last week about like, like what am I without that? It was like whoosh, and I had to sit with it, and I realized, but I'm so much more than that. That what I am going to say is that connecting with people and wanting to help people have led me to the place now where I can say, I understand what I feel I'm meant to be doing here on this planet. And I know it's not to hold space for people like that, or be a coach, or whatever it was that I was before. It's not that. So it's interesting how we can move from that space when we get into knowing ourselves better, where that becomes completely like kind of like not who we are.
And that's not to say that, it's not to say that at some point in life, at some point in what's to come, you won't be holding space and being a coach,
Yeah.
but it will be something that you do and not who you are.
Yes.
This is, and I think this is a real crux of it, like that we need to remember that it is something, and with all of this, it is something to do. Perhaps perhaps social media bios have an awful lot to answer for this. How do you describe yourself in 3 lines? And I remember years ago when I first started creating an Instagram bio that I was like, okay, I'm going to use this for my business. And I remember very consciously writing on there, I'm a, whatever it was I said at the time. Now I think it says something like, I'm a medium, I'm a therapist, I'm a writer. I'm also a dog mum. I'm a Northumbrian. I'm a lover of life. Like those are the things that, it probably says something different than that, but those are the things, like, we have to remember that we are not. So you love crystals? Cool. That love of crystals may have led you to become a crystal healer. Cool. Crystal healer is not the definition of your personality.
Yeah.
It is do.
Yeah.
And if crystal healing allows you to work with crystals every day, to share your knowledge of something that you love with people, that's really cool. Isn't it really cool that you can make a job out of that nowadays? Amazing. And yet also just step back from that. There's that line out there, isn't there, about find a job that you love and you'll never work a day in your life. And I really, truly believe that is one of the biggest pieces of bullshit that we are fed.
Yes.
Because you'll still be working. You'll probably actually just burn yourself out more. Yeah. Because you'll go, oh no, but I love this. So why would I stop? So why would I stop at 10 o'clock at night? I love this. I'll keep going. No, find a job that you love. Know that you love your work and it's still work.
Yeah.
And remember who you are outside of your work as well. Remember who you, I think the most beautiful, if you don't mind me sharing, the most beautiful part of our conversation that we had last week was you spoke about the fact that the addiction, if you like, within your work is allowing you to connect.
Yes.
I said to you, when do you feel most connected?
Yes.
And you said, when I'm in the sea, when I'm in the water and I'm just playing in the water.
Yes.
You're not working with a client then.
Yes.
You're not arguably doing anything that is Yolandi as the DNA activating cosmic superstar. You're not doing that. You're just being playing.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Exactly. And I think that's the thing that we need to get back to, isn't it? Like who are you when you're standing alone and your job is behind you and you're just like waking up in the morning or wherever you are? Like, who are you then? Like, without the thing? Because like for such a long time, I was just literally reciting my job as my person. And then when you and I spoke about it last week, it was like, but I love exploring and I love finding out new stuff and I like all of these things. And I was just like, these are all the things that light me up. And like, and I pull those things into my life now. But if you'd asked me this like a year ago, I wouldn't have said this because I hadn't rekindled that flame in myself like I did last year when I was in my 7 deep dive numerology year and I had to really like see that. And like our conversation just kind of amplified to me, like, these are the things that I love. I love finding out new things. And it doesn't just have to be about, spiritual stuff, obviously, but it's like history and the cosmos and like everything. And these are the things that bring me joy. And the fact that I get to obviously share this stuff now as part of my job, awesome. And I love it. But it's just like, but those are the, like, even if I wasn't doing this job, I wouldn't stop loving that part of me, my inquisitive mind, because that's what I am. I'm a super inquisitive mind. So I think it's just important that we start extricating ourselves out, because what our industry is trying to do is like, just, like, it's almost like we're putting on blinkers so that we don't see what more there is to us, because I am just a therapist, I'm just a crystal healer, I'm just a sound healer, I'm just a whatever. And it's just like, and there's so much more to you. There's a whole fucking, like, there's this vastness of you that is like intertwined, right?
Absolutely. And it makes me think about, being back at school. And you remember when you were at school and you had the groups of kids, you had like, in my day at my school, you had the goths, who would wear all the black, and they would often be very, very dressed up, but always in loads of black, loads of like thick eye makeup and all the rest of it. You had, well, what I guess is now called the chavs. I don't know, we called them different things back then, but who would walk around in their tracksuits. They'd talk in really thick accents. It was all these different countercultures.
Yeah.
And there is not, and by the way, when I say thick accents, I mean broad. I'm not saying that in any other way. There's all these different countercultures, and spirituality, by nature of its commodification, spirituality has become a counterculture.
Oh.
I cannot tell you how many people I meet and they go, I find it really weird that you don't look spiritual, because I'm there in jeans and probably a t-shirt with some sort of cheesy slogan on the front that's really feminist or whatever, or I'm there in, I don't know, whatever, or I'm even down to the fact that my Instagram, I made a conscious effort that when I rebranded my business, it was going to be black and white. I did that for various reasons, partly because it felt right for me, partly because I come from Newcastle and it felt like a very rooted thing to be in black and white. Partly for very many reasons, I made a conscious effort. And one of them was, I'm not going to be pretty.
Yeah.
I don't want to be pretty. You will very rarely, that's a lie. In summer, you will see me in maxi dresses often. Why? Because they're comfy.
Yeah.
Not because I want to look, not because I think it's part of the aesthetic. And I'm not criticizing anybody who does dress a certain way, who does have, that their branding for their business a certain way. I'm not criticizing that, but what I'm saying to you is, we have reached a point where we have come. They say the commodification of spirituality has brought us to a point where we believe that it must define us and it must define our entire lives in order for it to be valid. And quite frankly, that is about as far away from spiritual as you can possibly be. Because you know what spirituality is about? Spirituality is about coming home to the authenticity of who we are, not hashtag authenticity, actual authenticity. And then it's about recognizing ourselves as part of something much greater.
Yes.
In which actually who we are is both the most important thing and also totally not really that important.
Yes. And I think that thing, like, that is like, so, because that whole conversation and everything about this, who am I, led me back to my search for connectedness, right? Like, and it is not my search for connectedness just to humans, it's connectedness to everything and to oneness and to all of it. And it was like, and that is like, for me, that underpins everything. So that whole scenario of like finding out who I am reminded me that I am part of everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And you are again, it sounds like a real cliche, but you are the U-shaped part of everything. Everything, the oneness works. If you look through a kaleidoscope tomorrow, today, right now, a kaleidoscope is a million different pieces that are a million different shapes and a million different shades. And it looks the way it does because everything is different. If we all try and be the same, it's not a kaleidoscope, it's pink. You need the bit that is uniquely you in order for the oneness to be flavored with that you-ness. Yes. Otherwise, the oneness is missing something. If all of us are trying to be exactly the same, if all of us are trying to fit into the same mold, if all of us are trying to fit into what this industry has told us we should be, or what the top 3 books in the industry tell us is right, very quickly oneness will fall down. Because oneness does not mean banal, bland, everything is the same. Oneness means we all come together in our different ways, and together we make something incredible.
Oh man, that image, I love it. The kaleidoscope, because it is that, isn't it? Like this puzzle that is our, like, just our connection is 7-8 billion different pieces. Like, literally. So your kaleidoscope has got 8 billion different pieces to it. And that all makes up this, like, I just keep wanting to say cosmic, like, expansiveness into everything else, doesn't it?
And if what you are doing as your piece of that 8 billion strong kaleidoscope is you are trying to be like everybody else, because that's the way you should be in order to fit in order to be taken seriously, in order to sell things. And by the way, it's no different being somebody you're not to try and fit into a priestess course than it is being somebody you're not to try and fit into an office job. Like, same thing.
Yeah,
absolutely the same thing. It's still an absolute betrayal of yourself. And it's still, you should never be put in a position where you feel like you can't be you. One, if you're trying to pretend to be somebody you're not just so you fit in, you're not living your bit as that part of that kaleidoscope. If you are being the person who brings value to other people and defining yourself in that way, you're not playing your part in the kaleidoscope.
Mm.
What you're doing in that moment is playing the part that fits in with other people.
Mm.
You need to be you. You need to be out there doing you and being, and we spoke last week, didn't we, about, and doesn't this come down to the crux of it? Again, that line, you're not a human doing, you're a human being.
Yeah.
Who you are is not about what you do, it's about who you are.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is just the minute you put the job title down and your Instagram account and your all of that, like, where are you standing? Like, how do you get up in the morning? Like, who is she when she rises and she walks out the door?
Yeah.
Sure.
Who are you on those mornings? If I often come back to that, if I won the lottery tomorrow, what would I do with my time? Because that stuff is the important stuff. Like, that's the thing that obviously matters to me. But equally, the same goes at the other end of the spectrum. If you lost everything tomorrow, who would you still be?
Mm. Yes.
What would be the things that would light you up even in the darkest time?
Yeah.
Who would you still be? Because that's the core of this.
Yeah. Exactly. And so, like, when we weave our whole definition of self into jobs, especially in this economic climate, all of that, we also start eroding so much of ourselves because, we tie our worth into our jobs and all of that type of stuff. And if you're maybe like running a business or trying something new and it's not working out, or it's not like you thought it would be, and then you kind of like you wither away because this idea that you held about who you are. And in these times when it feels like we are literally learning to redefine who we are and like look at the world in a different space, we have to remove our worth. We have to remove it from the labels that we give ourselves, from those like definitions of self that is so flawed, because otherwise you're fucked when things don't go the way that you thought they were going to go.
That's so true, isn't it? It's like, how many times have you seen, because I know I have, people in this industry who have, something's happened, be it that the part of the industry that they worked in has kind of crumbled away, be it that they have sort of fallen away from a group that they were a part of that was a big part of their lives, be it whatever, and they have literally lost themselves.
Yeah.
Because they don't know who they are outside of their jobs. And I have a friend who works in this industry, and I've known her for 5 years, and in that 5 years she seems to have been on a continual journey to come back to who she is, which we all are. But she really, after years of that having been taken from her through various circumstances, and now I look at her having been on that journey, and for the longest time she was like, I don't even know what my work is because I don't know who I am. And now I listen to her and I look at her and I go, I recognize that she knows what her work is and she knows what she is. And for the first time ever, she recognizes that the two are two separate things.
Yes.
But because for the longest time she was trying to find one in order to find the other, she couldn't find either.
Yes.
It's impossible. And I think we have to remember that when things, exactly as you say, like it starts to erode who, if we identify too strongly with our job, if we identify too strongly with any of this, it starts to erode who we are.
Yeah, exactly. And I think for me, it's just like, and I can look back at my own journey and go, the times when I tried stuff or I did stuff and it didn't work, and how that affected my whole like self-esteem, right? Like, it's just like, I'm not good enough, like I'm not meant to be doing this, da 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 da. Been there, done that, got the freaking t-shirt, right? Like, it's just like, and it's just like, and the more I'm growing in my own journey and finding myself, I'm actually like, none of that, like, none of that matters even. That does not define me. And I think, for me, that's been a huge lesson. It's just like this part of me is just like, she just needs to be. She just needs to be, and that is fine, and that is perfect, and that is good enough.
And there will be parts of there will be parts of that which will inevitably weave in parts of your story, parts of your experience
Yeah.
into your work. And that's okay. Like, this isn't us saying the two must be forever kept separate. They can't be, they won't be. You know, we all come at everything we do through the lens of who we are. But it is you remembering, I've lost my train halfway through, but it is you remembering that who you are is not wholly what you do.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So, so have a bit of a think about this. Have a bit of a think about, like, just like sit and think, like, where am I at? Who am I without my job? Because when Karen said that to me last week, it like literally knocked the socks. That was like my breaking point, and I was just like, oh, and then I came back to it. And I think it's really important. So part of the like homework when you're listening is just take a few minutes to sit with that, because I reckon the world and our industry would be a lot more of a harmonious place when we start divorcing these things, okay? When we start divorcing and going, this is me and that's my job,
And
okay?
again, if this isn't your job, if spirituality isn't, or wellness isn't your job, isn't the field you work in, who am I without this in my personality?
Mm.
You know, there's a running joke, isn't there, about how millennials like to make something that they like their personality. And I feel like this industry is a prime example of that.
Yeah.
Who am I? Well, I'm crystals. Well, I'm Reiki. Well, I'm a witch. Well, it's not your personality.
Yeah.
It might be part of who you are. You know, being a witch is something I hold sacred. It is
Yes.
something. It's also not my personality, which is why people probably go, you don't look like a witch. It's not my personality. How do you, who are you in comparison to your job? Who are you in comparison to what you love?
Yeah.
And what if we told you, and we're not going to tell you, because we're not here to tell you what you can and can't do. We're not here to tell you what you can and can't be. But if somebody came along and took that thing from you tomorrow, hypothetically, who would you be?
Yeah.
Would your life be empty? Would you be lost? Is it a form of addiction? Because for so many of us, and I include myself in that at various points over the years, it is a form of addiction. Be it this work, be it this work as in paid work, be it this work as in the journey that we're on becomes an addiction.
Mm.
What if you were made to step away from it? Who would you be? What would your
Yeah.
life be? And while nobody's going to make you do that, and if they do, we'll come after them. While no one's going to make you do that, what we are saying to you is a deep reliance on something, a definition of yourself by something, particularly something that, I'm going to use that word again, has been commodified so deeply, is still something that we probably need to somehow extricate ourselves from.
Yeah.
And come back to who we are.
And I'm just, as you're saying that, I was thinking, like, even before I came on this journey, right? Like when I was a business analyst and a project manager and like, even back then, I was always my job because I didn't know myself. So I was Yolandi, the girlfriend, Yolandi, the the project manager, Yolandi, the something. But I was never Yolandi, the fun-loving, like open-minded explorer soul who loves being on the earth and just wants to have fun and see everything and experience everything. Because I never looked at that part of myself like I look at that part of myself now. I was just my job title, my relationship status, my Ben's mom, whatever. I'm like, that's all I ever thought of myself. But it's almost like also these energies are giving us the opportunity to go, you're much fucking more than any of that.
And I wonder how much of that is, again, it comes back to that value thing.
Yeah.
Where we're given the value. People tell you, oh, you're a good project manager. Oh, so that means that's what I'm. Oh, you're a good mom. Oh, so that means that's what I'm. Oh, your husband loves you. Your husband finds you attractive. Your husband wants to be with you. Oh, well, then I must be a good partner.
Yeah.
But again, when I said to you the other day, when do you feel most like you?
Yeah.
I said, when I'm in the water. You didn't talk about because I am with so and so. You're inevitably with a friend often. You didn't say because I'm with so and so doing this. If you ask me when I feel most like me, there's 2 times I feel most like me. One is walking in the woods.
Mm.
and one is curling up on the sofa with a book.
Mm.
Neither of those things are me doing a job.
Yeah.
Although my job does involve writing and storytelling, and I'm proud of that, and it's something that I love. But neither of those are me doing something. Neither of those involve another person.
Yeah.
Because they're about coming back to the crux of me. And the people who are most important in my life will celebrate those parts of me because they know that that's who I am.
Yeah. Oh.
But that's what we have to remember. Who are you is not who are you to other people. It's not how do you bring value to the world. It's who are you? What is it that within you that speaks of that deepest connection, that speaks of that deepest truth, that lights up your heart in all of the ways?
Mm.
And that's not to say that if your answer is it's when I'm with my kids, that's wrong. It's not. But what is it about that lights it up, that lights you up? What is it about when I'm out in nature? What lights me up is that the connection to it, the enchantment of it, of hearing the birds sing, of looking at all the colors. That's what lights me up.
Yeah.
That's not, it's not to say that any of the things we choose are wrong. It's just to say that these are the places where we find our joy. So let's come back to those a little bit more for us rather than for other people.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. Oh, so I think that's our message for today.
Who are you? No big question. Who are you outside of the job titles, outside of the relationships, outside of the worth? What if you defined yourself by that instead of the job titles, the expectations, the industries, the images? Just who are you?
Mm.
Because that's who the world needs, and that's who you need, most importantly.
And that's who the kaleidoscope needs, because I'm never going to forget the freaking kaleidoscope. I love that image. My heart's full just thinking about that, because it's the most fucking beautiful thing to look at, all the fractals and all of that. And yeah, and that's the universe. So that's beautiful. So thank you for saying that. That's made my heart happy. Okay, awesome. So yeah, so let's do the grown-up thing. If you like this, please subscribe, share with your friends, all the good stuff that Karen and I always forget to say at the end of our broadcasts. So just thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back again next month with whatever thought-provoking stuff hit us in the month, and can't wait to speak to you again. Karen?
Absolutely. And I'm not quite sure when this is going out yet, but if you can't get enough of Yolandi and my voices, May the 1st we'll be doing a Beltane broadcast for Project Earthwork. Come along and join us. It will be amazing. And yeah, thank you again, and subscribe, and we'll see you very soon.
Thank you.